Welcome to the world of weird NFL rules. From shoes flying off to leap blocking bans, let's get into the weirdest NFL rules ever to exist. It gets weirder by the minute. Ready? The Palpably Unfair Act rule. We begin with the NFL's wildest card yet. If there was ever a rule that gives NFL officials too much power, it's the Palpably Unfair Act rule. Officially buried in Rule 12, Section 3, Article 4. This rule allows referees to call the shots on any act deemed so blatantly unfair that it disrupts the game's integrity. And when I say blatantly unfair, I mean anything from a player coming off the bench to tackle a runner on their way to a touchdown. Yep, that actually happened once. The craziest part is that the referees can apply any penalty they see fit, even handing out a score if they think it's deserved. The rule is designed for those extreme, unsportsmanlike moments that fall way outside the bounds of normal penalties. But here's the crazy part. Up until recently, no NFL game has ever actually been decided by this rule. It's like the nuclear option, always sitting there, ready to be used but rarely needed. You know how this rule came about? Back in 1954 during the Cotton Bowl, Alabama's Tommy Lewis ran off the bench and tackled Rice's Dickie Magle, who was cruising for a clear touchdown. The officials had no choice but to award the touchdown to Rice, but everyone knew clearly that it was an unfair call. In the NFL, we've gotten close to invoking the rule on multiple occasions. In the 2013 AFC Championship, Bill Belichick's Patriots were accused of manipulating penalties to force a punt, and many wondered if it was an example of a palpably unfair act. In another playoff game, repeated offside penalties on the goal line almost led to the rule being called to award a touchdown. While the rule's only been used for educational purposes, its existence keeps teams in check, ensuring no one tries to pull a fast one and derail the integrity of the game. Still on the referees, let's get into our next rule, the inadvertent whistle rule. Nothing ruins a play quite like a whistle, except when that whistle is inadvertent. An official accidentally blowing their whistle during a live play can completely mess with the flow of the game, and the rules are designed to clean up the mess it creates. Here's how it works. If the referee blows the whistle by mistake, the play is dead immediately. It gets better. The offense gets to pick from a menu of 3 options. First up, the offense can replay the down from the original spot, or they can choose to accept the results of the play where the whistle was blown, like a do-over with a twist. If the player who had possession crosses into the end zone for a touchdown at the same moment the whistle blows, the touchdown counts. That's the NFL's way of making sure a referee's blunder doesn't cost a team a clear score. The most infamous example happened on Thanksgiving Day in 2018 during a Cowboys-Redskins game. Ezekiel Elliott broke free on a long run for a likely touchdown, but an official's whistle blew, halting the play. The Cowboys were given the choice to either take the play where it stopped or replay the down. They opted to take the ball at the spot and scored a touchdown on the very next play. Cool, right? This rule was created to save games, but our next rule was created to save lives, literally. Fair catch on kickoffs. The fair catch on kickoffs rule sounds boring, right? But in reality, it's one of those rule changes that totally reshaped how we view kickoffs, and it's way stranger than it sounds. Back in 2018, the NFL decided to take what's usually a high-speed, crash-landing, teeth-rattling play and turn it into a safety net for players with a simple yet bizarre twist. If a player calls for a fair catch on a kickoff, they get the ball automatically at the 25-yard line. Yep, just like a touchback. So why did they do this? Well, the NFL got all data-driven on us and realized that while kickoffs might be a small percentage of total plays, they're also the main culprits when it comes to concussions. We're talking about players barreling down the field at full speed, looking to annihilate the guy receiving the ball. Now, while this rule is definitely safety first, it's also downright weird when you think about it. For years, kickoff returns were one of the most exciting, unpredictable parts of the game. With this rule, though, those returns became almost pointless. Returners now get the same 25-yard line spot by just waving their arms in the air and letting the ball land in their lap. No runbacks, no jukes, no big hits. The first few seasons were full of awkward moments. Returners would forget the new rule and try to make a play, only for the play to get whistled dead before they even took a step. But despite all the grumbling, the NFL's fair catch rule has definitely shifted the landscape of special teams, and we can all breathe easy with a clear head. Next, we move to the one rule that came from that one game, the Holy Roller Rule. Picture this. It's September 10th, 1978. The Oakland Raiders are trailing 20-14 to the San Diego Chargers with just 10 seconds left. The Raiders have the ball on the Chargers' 14-yard line, and it's do-or-die time. Enter Ken the Snake Stabler, quarterback and man with a plan. Stabler, facing a sack, does the unthinkable. He intentionally loses the ball forward in a desperate attempt to keep the play alive. What follows can only be described as pure chaos. Raiders running back Pete Banaszak, trying to recover the ball, accidentally bats it forward. Then, tight end Dave Casper, in a moment of what the heck, tries to scoop it up, but instead kicks it into the end zone, where he falls on it for a touchdown. The clock hits 0, and the Raiders win 21-20 after the extra point. After a brief review, the refs ruled it a touchdown, citing a legal fumble. All three players admitted they had intentionally tried to make the play happen. But Chargers fans weren't buying it, dubbing the event the Immaculate Deception. And that, dear friends, was how the new rule came to be. The following offseason, the NFL implemented a new rule to prevent such craziness from happening again. From then on, if a fumble occurred in the final 2 minutes of a half or on a fourth down, only the player who fumbled the ball could recover it and advance it. A teammate recovering it meant the ball was placed back at the original spot, and the down was lost. Fast forward to 2022, and the rule came back into the spotlight when a similar last-second fumble occurred. The ball was correctly placed back at the original spot, denying the Chargers a dramatic touchdown. And so, the Holy Roller rule lives on. Still like our next rule, it is rarely needed. The one-shoe rule. The one-shoe rule isn't a quirky rule that mandates players wear a single shoe, though wouldn't that be wild? It's a nickname for a fascinating occurrence in the NFL's equipment policy. There's no rule that says a player can't continue a play if they lose a shoe. As long as their helmet stays on and they maintain possession of the ball, the game keeps going, even if they're down to one shoe or in rare cases, none at all. While shoes are key for traction and safety, the NFL rulebook is oddly silent on footwear. Losing one doesn't stop the play, unlike a helmet, which must stay on for safety. The most famous example of this rule came during a 1995 game between the Minnesota Vikings and Pittsburgh Steelers. Running back Robert Smith took a handoff, sprinted through the defense, and lost his left shoe. But did that stop him? Nope. With one shoe flying off, Smith juked a defender and rumbled 58 yards for a touchdown, his sock-clad foot streaking down the field. Since then, players like Patrick Mahomes and Isaiah Pacheco have added to the history of this rule, losing shoes mid-play but keeping the action alive. It's one of those hilarious, unexpected moments that make NFL fandom so fun. The one-shoe rule might not make or break a game, but it's a reminder that sometimes it's the weirdest little details that turn into the most unforgettable plays. So yes, shoes are allowed to fly, but not defenders, hence the next rule on our list. The no-leaping rule. The no-leaping rule is the NFL's way of saying, we love a good block, but let's not risk breaking the game or the players in the process. Officially added to the rulebook in 2017, this rule makes it illegal for a defender to run and leap over an offensive lineman, specifically to block a field goal or extra point attempt. The penalty is a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct flag, no flying allowed. Before the rule, defenders like Cam Chancellor, Seahawks, and Justin Simmons, Broncos, would time their jumps perfectly, soaring over the line to try and block the kick. While it was an epic, jaw-dropping play, it came with serious safety risks. The long snapper, in a crouched, vulnerable position, was at risk of being crushed, and the leaping defender could land awkwardly, risking major injury. In response to these concerns, the NFL decided enough was enough. The new rule doesn't ban leaping entirely, but it only allows it from the line of scrimmage. No high-flying acrobatics unless you're in a stable position. Defenders must rely on strength, speed, and technique, rather than a leap of faith, to block kicks. The rule sacrifices the thrill of a spectacular play, but it does so for a good reason: player safety. Sometimes, rules exist just to keep everything from going overboard. Let's talk about the next weird one. The punt hitting the scoreboard rule. NFL rules usually exist because of player shenanigans. But this one, it happened because Jerry Jones decided to build the football equivalent of a spaceship. When Ettant Stadium opened in 2009, the Dallas Cowboys proudly unveiled the largest high-definition video board in the world, stretching from 20-yard line to 20-yard line and hanging just 90 feet above the field. It was breathtaking, sure. But there was one tiny problem. NFL punters can kick a ball higher than that. And so the punt hitting the scoreboard rule was born. It's tucked neatly into Rule 9, and here's how it works. If a punt hits the scoreboard, video board, or any overhead object, the play is whistled dead. No gain, no loss, no trickery, just a straight do-over from the previous spot. It's basically the NFL's version of, oops, try again. The controversy started before the stadium even hosted a regular season game. During a 2009 preseason match, Titans punter A.J. Trapasso booted one into the massive screen, sending jaws to the floor and sparking debates about whether the board was hanging way too low. Jerry Jones refused to budge, Literally, instead of redesigning his billion-dollar toy, the league simply changed the rulebook. Since then, the scoreboard has been an occasional uninvited defender. In 2011, legendary punter Shane Lechler blasted one so high it smacked the board on Thanksgiving. And in a 2022 playoff game, Brian Anger of the Cowboys repeated history by drilling the video board, forcing yet another do-over. The rule doesn't pop up often, but when it does, it's definitely unforgettable. Finally, for the last rule standing, pun intended, we'll talk about the intentional grounding loophole. Intentional grounding sounds straightforward. A quarterback can't just chuck the ball into empty space to dodge a sack. If they do, it's a 10-yard penalty from the spot of the throw and, to make it sting more, a loss of down. But then the rule book gets interesting, and quarterbacks get crafty. There's an escape clause. If the QB scrambles outside the tackle box and heaves the ball beyond the line of scrimmage, no penalty. The tackle box is that invisible rectangle running from one offensive tackle to the other, essentially the quarterback's safe zone. Step outside it, and the rules shift. This exception exists because once a QB is flushed from the pocket, the play is already chaos. Linemen can't protect forever, and punishing a quarterback for simply surviving would be brutal. So the rule bends. Get outside, throw it away cleanly, and live to fight the next down. Smart quarterbacks weaponize this. Aaron Rodgers, for instance, practically wrote the textbook on exploiting it. He'll roll right or left, scan the field, and if nothing opens up, zip, ball out of bounds, beyond the sticks, clock stopped, no sack. It's not really a loophole so much as a built-in lifeline. A clever balance between protecting defenses and letting quarterbacks keep the game alive without being crushed for improvising. Who knew the NFL had so many quirky rules? To be fair, we all know that football is anything but predictable, so better to be safe than sorry. Which of these rules weirded you out? Let us know in the comments.